I'm failing to find the words, but it's very hard. It's a hard topic to explain. But I guess what I can say is how I try my best to detach myself from my ego and observe is mainly just through mindful breathing. And that's something else I've learned through like Buddhist practice and yoga. In yoga, you have the Ujjayi breath, which is you're breathing through your nose and you exhale through the back of your throat. And that's actually something I practice like at the table every single hand. Um, Before I look at my hand, I take a deep breath and then I exhale as I look. And what that does is it prevents any emotional spike. Um, say like because sometimes you can be in a game playing for 2 hours and not get dealt anything great, and then say you're not paying attention, you kind of started like getting distracted, and then you look down and you get pocket aces, which is like the best starting hand. If you're not mindful and aware, it's very easy to become emotional, and then that affects your ability to make rational decisions. So what I like to do is, take my deep breath, I start exhaling, I look, and what that does is, I say I look down at the aces, I may still feel a slight emotional spike, but instead of it being a 10, it's now a 2. And that's
Right.
going to allow me to stay more objective and think more rationally about things.
So yoga is part of it. Yoga help you.
Yoga has been incredibly transformative for me. It's really made me see the impact of the nervous system and how that functions in uh, just making mental decisions. Uh, I think that a lot of stress and trauma is held in the body, and through stretching and mindful breathing, you can kind of even out those that anxiousness that's stored in your body, and yeah, it's definitely given me a lot of insight and helps me on a daily basis.
Right. What about sleep? How much sleep time you get? Do you have a
I
strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I aim to sleep at least a minimum of 7 hours. Is kind of like my aim, and um, I try to wake up early. I'm definitely a morning person, and I before a game, I kind of have a system for myself in the mornings as well. I typically wake up, I do 10 to 15 minutes of yoga in my room, and then I either go to an actual yoga class, or I'll go for a run, I'll do some weightlifting, or I'll do some meditation. Um, and then I like to spend an hour or so either studying and reviewing hands from previous days, or just socializing and getting a cup of coffee at a local shop. I like the Clever Cup, and I'm sure you know that. But yeah, do some socializing. I find it kind of wakes up my brain and kind of gets me in the right mind frame um, to go play. And I think part of that too is just taking a little bit of time for myself before getting into the game, and it helps me just stay mindful of all the good things I have in life. Good friends and my health, and taking care of those things before um, going into an environment where I could win or lose on any given day, and it makes it easier to lose when the rest of your life is in order.
So there's a lot of discipline in it.
Yeah, almost too much discipline.
Now, luck. How luck is the lifeblood of poker? So some people seem to think that this is a strategy game. This is knowing the game, how to play. But you mentioned at one part that luck play a big deal in it. How's that?
um, hmm. Luck. I mean, luck's a factor. It's there's definitely a lot more skill, but you'll often hear inexperienced players complaining about luck in the game and how a certain player is so lucky, or they they play all these bad hands and they're lucky. And I think that the reason you hear this from inexperienced players is because they see that what someone's doing isn't good, but they don't understand the game well enough to know how to react and take advantage of that. So it's like they're kind of blaming the wrong thing. I guess it's classic blaming other things that are happening outside yourself rather than blaming yourself for not understanding what's actually happening. So um, luck plays an important role in the sense that if it was a game of 100% like pure skill, it would become very uninteresting,
Okay.
and it wouldn't be very appealing to inexperienced players. And as someone, if your goal is to play the game for a living, you need people who want to play for fun, because if you just have nine players who are very, very, very good and strong, um, the only person you're basically just swapping money back and forth, and no one really wins.
Mhm.
So basically, luck allows people who just want to have fun, which is that's a totally valid reason for some people who want to play. Um, it allows someone who maybe doesn't have the best strategy to beat someone like me on a given day. Say I have a good strategy, I have a good understanding, and say somebody's a successful business owner, and they like to play poker as a hobby. Um, them being able to put their money in at 30% where I have 70%, um, allows basically just allows them to win sometimes. And if the game was purely based on, um, if you make the wrong decision, you just lose every time, like chess,
Yeah.
then it would just become uninteresting. And that's a big reason why, um, you don't see high stakes chess tournaments going on, um, at least from what I know. And then you'll see lots of very big games, with in poker, where people who they're not necessarily the best players, but they really like they like taking a shot against really good players. And you actually see there's actually a pretty cool live stream that plays out of Los Angeles every Friday. Uh,
Hmm.
it's called Live at the Bike, and that it's a game where last week there was $1 million on the table, and most of the players in that game are very good, but there are still a few players who are playing who are just they're very successful businessmen, and they like playing against the best players in the world to see like what they can do against these players. And I think luck is an important element to that, because if they had no shot, then they would just not want to play at all.
Okay. All right, Ryan. So it's been such an interesting subject, professional poker, and we kind of like are running out of time. We going to the end of the program. Is any way you can give your information over the line if somebody wants to get hold of you to learn about poker, and then if you can make a conclusion of the show.
Sure. I would say if you want to get better at poker, um, whew, I would say find people who are better than you, or people who play the game who are successful that you can ask questions. And a good place to find this would be online forums and training sites. My personal favorite training site is a website called runitonce.com. It's a website that was started by Phil Galfond. Phil
Yeah.
Galfond is one of the best players in the world, and he developed a training platform, um, maybe 8 years ago, and they have forums on there. They have cheap subscriptions where you can have access to hundreds of videos where there's current top players explaining strategy, and there's also forums where you can make friends and ask questions about different stuff. And then I would also recommend just reading Easy Game by Andrew Seidman. I think that's my personal favorite book when it comes to poker. I think that's the only poker book I've ever read, because I felt after reading it, it pretty much gave me a very strong fundamental understanding. And yeah, I mean, if you have any more questions, I guess you can reach me at ryanspicer777@gmail.com.
Okay. All right. Thank you, CQ Radio listeners. Today, our guest was Ryan Spicer. If you wanted to listen to this show, you can go to CQ Radio. Go to Google CQ Radio. Thanks so much, Ryan, and looking forward to talk to you and see you again.
All right. Thank you. Had fun.
Thank you.